Hey everyone, welcome back to Mario Zna podcast from Serbia. I come in peace. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. I'm not going to bomb anybody, you know. But welcome to the special episode tonight. First time in the podcast. Someone who is special to all of the people who are fighting against the global demonic elites, as I call them. Somebody who is an independent journalist. But when I say independent, I really mean it. You know, there is not a lot of people out there who are doing the job as they should. So this episode is a powerhouse. Maria from Zeee Media, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Mario. It's so great to be here, and I appreciate the invitation. I've been following your work for some time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are here at Balkans when it comes to Central Europe, when it comes to Zeee Media, when it comes to Vigilant Fox, when it comes to InfoWars. This is where we get our information from the world. So thank you for that, and also your colleagues.
I just wanted to say that really it's the blessing of the internet. There's a lot of negatives about the internet, but the blessing of the internet is that we can all connect in this way and be aware of the different agendas that are happening in different countries, which is ultimately all leading to the same agenda. But we can bounce off each other and communicate like this so that people, A, know that the same thing is happening across multiple countries in lockstep at the same time. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of that, but also that they're not isolated in that the people across the world are actually all standing together against this simultaneously.
Maria, for the beginning, really a first question, and it's a general question. After that, we're going to open like the most powerful topics that all of the people in the world are relying on to in our lives and our independence and our in every state, as you said, in every country, as you said it. There's no difference. Like, the global cabal is trying to do its work everywhere. So, like the general question is for you, what can you imagine? And I think that you had time to imagine what would the world look like in the future if the agendas from those demonic elitists came true.
Extremely dystopian, Mario. I have been researching their end goal for some time, and while I certainly don't profess to know absolutely everything about this, and I'm open to being wrong, I encourage everyone to fact check me. Don't just simply believe me. Do your own research about this stuff. But there are multiple investigative pieces that Zeee Media has released about the sort of end goal and their vision, and it really is something out of a sci-fi horror movie. We're talking about a future where you have sensors inside your body where the government is constantly tracking not only what you're doing with your health, but also with your thoughts, your decisions around your health. Your ability to get insurance will be based on, whether you've eaten the approved meals or not. And of course, those approved meals will be lab-grown meat, which is cancer cells promulgated by Bill Gates and people like him. It's really things that are harming us, and the only way for us to survive in the world that they're building for us is to continue doing things that are harming us, because our ability to earn money will depend on our compliance. When you talk about things like digital currency linked to your digital ID, linked to your online discourse, the accounts that you follow, even mind you, Grok is now looking at association and judging people by their associations as well. So you may be someone that doesn't even say anything on social media, but just based on what you're looking at, you'll be judged by that, or who you're following. When you talk about limits on your money, expiring money, central bank digital currencies or cryptocurrencies that are regulated by governments, the control grid that's being built, the 15-minute cities, the inability to leave. I mean, we're seeing that in Canada right now. There's this incremental stages of banning people from the woods. They're giving people fines of over $100,000 for simply walking into nature. This is the future of just a peek into the future of what everyone's lives will look like eventually if we allow them to get away with this agenda. And I'll just really quickly mention something to you. And please, at any point stop me because I have a tend of going, to 2050 with this stuff just because I know their end goal. But Stanford researchers, this is just from today, have developed a brain implant which is capable of decoding your inner speech in real time, bringing in society closer to an era of brain transparency. So when I'm going to the extremes of this, where I say the government wants to monitor your thoughts, and people think, well, how are they going to do that? They already are. If they're telling us they've just developed these ways of monitoring your inner thoughts, believe me, they had it figured out a long time ago.
They had it in the 80s, like it's,
Right.
yeah. Especially when it comes to army, especially when it comes to military, the equipment, the technology. Like since we were kids, we were told by our parents, son, you see the mobile phones, yeah, but they had it in World War II. So yeah. And the reason that I started with this, it's because this is why I'm coming to a second question. uh, what, from your angle, what is the biggest threat towards human society here around the world? What's the biggest threat right now when it comes to agendas? What's the agenda that is being moved right now when it comes to like being implemented and people are not seeing it?
That's a really good question because they're all interconnected. So to pinpoint one specific aspect, they're all horrific. But the point is to understand the point of why they're all connected. And so if you look at the overarching problem with all of them, it really is AI and technocracy. That's what it is. Because if you recall statements from Yuval Noah Harari, I know a lot of people have sort of moved on from the problems with the World Economic Forum, but we have to pay attention to what these people have said. Yuval Noah Harari said that we will have the technology that dictators of the past could only dream of. And whoever controls this technology is essentially on Noah's Ark, and everyone else is subjected to the flood that's going to destroy them. I'm paraphrasing now, but this is what he said. And when you understand the topics of biodigital convergence, AI, surveillance, all of these things together, you see that he wasn't joking. He wasn't joking. So I think that really AI, they can't do everything that they're planning without AI, and it's growing at such an exponential rate. And they keep telling us, oh, we have to beat this country in the arms race. Well, hang on, you all colluded to create this arms race in the first place because the ultimate goal is to have a one world leader, a one world currency, a one world everything, eventually leading to the mark of the beast. I'm just going to say that openly, Mario, because that is what these people want. And if you're someone that's looking at this and you can't see the similarities between the mark of the beast, where you can't buy or sell without the one thing, then I don't know. I can't help you. you know.
Yeah. That's like, I know that you guys from Zeee Media, that you founded, and also your colleagues from other medias that you are talking, also as we are here in Serbia and in Central Europe, and we all know that we cannot save everybody. You know,
Yeah.
basically, we have to, from the time when I started working, like I had an idea like everybody's going to be saved. Now everybody's going to hear the right information, but some people are just rejecting the truth, and that's the reality. So I saw, and I follow you on X, and I follow you on social media, and also on other medias, and I know that during last few weeks you also started. You did it before, but now I can see that you are diving in into researching the real threat that comes from the AI. And if you can please tell me and tell to the crowds, like, what is the real danger coming from the AI? Because we see now that a lot of people are using those simple chatbots, but also we can see that those chatbots are also danger to some people. So can you please like explain to us and to me, like, what's behind the AI for real?
For real, I'll tell you what I think. I think it's a digital Ouija board. That's literally what I think. Okay, on a spiritual level, that's what I think as a Christian. However, let's just talk about logically. Okay, AI is a supercomputer, fast processing time, and maybe it can help you with writing short spiels, doing faster research, all of that sort of stuff. It's a really, really efficient mathematical tool. Okay, fine, no problem. The problem with the chatbots and things like that, if you're using AI just for those simple things, fine. It's like a glorified Google search, if you will. But when it goes to people deferring to AI for authority, for example, the number of people I'm seeing at Grok, is this true? And then Grok gives them, no, it's not true because blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is the equivalent of going to Mark Zuckerberg's fact checkers during the COVID era and saying, is the injection safe and effective, Mark Zuckerberg? I mean, it's crazy. AI is only good as the people who program it. And believe you me, they've left out a lot of truth in that programming. But that's one thing. But then we move to people actually who are very desperate in this world, who have a lot of mental problems from the fact that society is declining, from the fact that they're unable to probably ever afford a home because these maniacs have made sure to build a society of renters, continued to strip us of all of our wealth and prosperity and any future prospects, keep us focused on this loop of continually failing societies where you can't even go outside without the fear of being raped or killed in some of these major cities. I mean, it's outrageous, right? So there are a lot of people that are facing serious despair right now, and a lot of them are godless, and they're turning to these AI chatbots for some sort of comfort. And we are actually seeing a very serious problem with what is being called AI psychosis. And you have, and I'm in no way or shape or form deferring to the experts here. I'm just judging based on what I'm seeing with my own eyes and reading testimonials of people that are saying that, this AI is their boyfriend and they've never felt more, more fulfilled than they do now. And it's just, it's bizarre. They have systematically blended the relationship with man and machine, Mario. It's been happening for a very long time, but now it's accelerating. And the problem, even more so with these seemingly small problems, because I guarantee you most people watching this broadcast today are not going to go and have an AI boyfriend or a chatbot, right? These people, your viewers are not stupid. It's indicative of the fall of society. But what the bigger problem is these AI systems integrating into governments, happening worldwide, talking to each other on a scale that we have never seen to build this surveillance state. That is literally, it crosses borders. It's real time. I don't know if your viewers understand real time and quantum mechanics. If you look at someone like CERN, do you remember that solar eclipse that happened in Texas, Mario? Okay,
Yeah.
let me just share this with your viewers. So a lot of people think about that solar eclipse that happened in Texas, and people were worried what's going to happen and all of this sort of stuff. Well, CERN, which has the Large Hadron Collider, where they're trying to collide particles and recreate the Big Bang, and they have the God particle and all of this sort of stuff. They were spending that time conducting their white rabbit experiment. That was major telcos from all around the world, including Telstra in Australia, one of the biggest in the country, if not the biggest. I think you had AT&T here in America doing the same thing. During that solar eclipse, they were synchronizing their white rabbit technology to make sure that their real-time data communications between all of the telecommunications companies, internet, everything is not going to be affected by external environmental factors like a solar eclipse, like an earthquake, like this, that, the other. Right? So this is how far these people have come. They are literally controlling time, making sure that their real-time AI communications cannot be disrupted. So when you consider that, and you consider something like the AI World Society, which most people think may be a benign thing, it's a very small group, it's affiliated with the United Nations, but it's not a small group because Ursula von der Leyen is part of that group. She's part of the people that wrote the book. It's called Remaking the World Towards an Age of Global Enlightenment. And it's funny because ever since I exposed that, you can't get the book anymore. It seems they're not sending it out to people. You used to be able to go in, put your details, and they send it to you. I can't get it again, but I do have a copy. Anyway, in that book, they talk about how we need AI governance, we need an AI judicial system, we need to have a digital currency that's not a social credit system. They don't punish you when you do the wrong thing, but you only earn money if you do the right thing. And that, of course, people can look this up if you're not aware of it. Look up Bill Gates patent 060606, mining cryptocurrency with your body data. So that is actually your compliance being tied to your ability to earn digital currency. It's exactly what's in this book. So I won't go too much more into that. My point in all of this is saying that even the benign threats of AI, like people developing AI psychosis, are horrible as it is. But we have something much, much bigger over here. We have them building this digital god, which Elon always talks about. Their digital god that's going to be, like Nimrod sitting at the top of the Tower of Babel, being the all-seeing eye, watching all of humanity at all times, every move, every thought, every transaction, if you're allowed to make it. It's absolutely maniacal. And when people think about the COVID era and the mandates, and people say, well, they'll never do mandates again. Well, they won't have to, because your digital currency will only work if you get the newest thing. And that is the very, very harsh and scary reality that's coming very quickly, Mario. I would say they're well on track, including in the United States, to achieving this by their 2030 goal.
Yeah, a lot of us thought that things are going to change rapidly since Donald Trump came back to power, but it doesn't seem like that from my point of view here from Europe.
No, he's accelerating things. I'll just be honest with you. He's brought in Palantir. All of the government agencies are now linked together, talking to one another. If people don't know about Palantir, I encourage you to do some research into it. But just think mega surveillance state, and even their name, it has to do with Lord of the Rings and, the Eye of Sauron and all of this symbology that these guys are into. I mean, they're real freaks. Look at Alex Karp, who says, their CEO, who says that he dreams of drone striking his enemies, that his biggest fear is that Christians are going to rise up against him. I mean, this guy is a literal maniac, and he's now got the IRS, Social Security, absolutely everything, all of your health data, everything is together. And they're moving forward with cryptocurrency very aggressively, but with government control of it. I mean, unknowingly or knowingly, the beast system is accelerating at record speeds.
But also to be fair, we can see I can also see in the world that the Orthodox Christianity is spreading fast. So I'm not afraid. I know that you are not afraid, and I know that people are not afraid of the future. But we really need to fight for the truth to come out. But one interesting thing that I saw yesterday when it comes to AI, when it comes to that kind of technology. I saw that in Beijing, in China, it was an opening ceremony of humanoid robots
Yes.
Olympics. So when we combine AI and humanoid robots, like what do we get?
Well, what's really scary, Mario, and I don't know what other countries are passing these types of laws, but at the very start of the year, President Trump passed a law that was, he signed in an executive order that declared that anyone who commits violence against law enforcement, or kills law enforcement rather, is going to be subjected to the death penalty. I agree absolutely that you should not be committing any violence against law enforcement. That is, it's disgusting. And unfortunately, we do have this decay of society that has to be dealt with. But the proposition is furthering of a police state. My problem with that executive order is that, not saying this was his intention, I'm saying that this is where it could lead to. In Florida, they have those police dogs, for example, right? Is that a law enforcement officer? What happens if that robot dog decides that you're a person that needs to be exterminated, and you happen to exterminate that robot dog first? Are you then subjected to the death penalty because it's considered law enforcement? What happens when a drone starts terrorizing you above your home, like we saw in New Jersey? You would remember all of those people in New Jersey being terrorized above their heads, which we never got an answer for. It was research and other purposes. Case closed. What do you mean? you know? And so what happens when people start being overwhelmed by the drone swarms above their heads and they can't sleep at night from the buzzing? And, you know, one patriot decides, I'm going to help my neighborhood out. And oh, it just so happens that was law enforcement. Is he now subjected to the death penalty? Even if that executive order doesn't mean that, I guarantee you that's what they want to do. So that's the kind of thing that we're facing in the future. And they're normalizing these humanoid robots and robot dogs and robot everything to get us used to essentially Terminator.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically that. I wrote it on my portal. My portal is this like we had the Terminator in 80s. Now we have like those cute puppies. You know, they're going to present us that they're all puppies and cats. And Elon Musk is selling his robot, and other companies are selling their humanoid robots, which are going to like put our walk our dogs or make us a lunch or give us something to eat. But what happens when you put the AK in the hands of that robot? You know, it's
Oh, you don't have to put an AK in its hands. It's got a little, you know, component in its head where it comes out and shoots lasers at you. I mean, who knows? Who
yeah,
knows what hidden weapons are there?
yeah,
There's actually a
yeah.
movie I watched a while ago. It reminds me of that movie. I wish I could remember the name, but there was a law enforcement agency that was rolling out these robot dogs to keep the community safe. And little did the people know there was a hidden weapon inside them, and they were going around and systematically taking people out. I mean, this is what makes us think they wouldn't do that to us. They killed off how many millions of people around the world during COVID on purpose. Let's not
Yeah.
forget that.
Yeah. Never. There's no way. There's no way. And I'm really glad when I see people like you and your colleagues still hunting down those witches, as I call them, the COVID witches, which did so much wrong to the world and was spreading so much fake news, and after that spreading so much death, and after that spreading so much like yeah, it was crazy, and we should never, we will never forget it. But you mentioned COVID. Do you think maybe that elite has a plan to implement the new kind of hysteria, new kind of panic in that kind of health way, virus stuff? Is there any idea for them to continue that, or they're going to make something new to put us down in lockdowns, new lockdowns? We saw in Canada with these climate lockdowns, but
Hmm.
do you have some information or maybe idea what can they do next?
I think that them pulling off another invisible pandemic is very unlikely unless it's something where people are bleeding from the mouth, nose, eyes, ears. I don't think people are going to be scared of another invisible virus again. So, is that possible with 5G weaponry? Yeah, it is actually. If you turn up the frequency enough, you can make people bleed from their orifices and tell them it's a virus. Because 5G is a weapon, of course. It's got nothing to do with improving your wireless technology. I hope everyone understands that. But I did come across some very interesting information this week. I released a report, or we, I say I, but we, Vigilant Fox and I released a report about the new universal vaccine that RFK Jr. was just talking about, which is the greatest 180 maybe in history. Someone who spent his life fighting against vaccines and vaccine harms and advocating for children. Pretty much as soon as he gets in, telling everyone to go get the MMR, which is a vaccine that he was fighting for all those years. Now he's talking about this new universal vaccine. He says it's going to be safer. You know, everyone's paying attention to the fact that he cancelled a bunch of mRNA contracts, but they don't see the other stuff that's happening. You know, they don't see the saRNA approvals. They don't see the other FDA fast tracks that are happening without clinical trials, without all of the processes that he promised would happen. And they certainly probably aren't aware that his new universal vaccine was funded by Bill Gates and developed by a scientist who wrote a paper with Anthony Fauci calling for a universal vaccine. So this is probably one of the most outrageous things that I could think of. Someone who wrote a book and sold probably millions of copies talking about Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci specifically, now developing a vaccine that has the funding of Bill Gates and a scientist that wrote a paper with Fauci calling for this vaccine. So do with that information what you will. But I say all of that to tell you the universal vaccine discussion has been coming for a very long time. I do think that they are continuing to to try and manufacture these health scares. In fact, just here this week, as part of that report, we spoke about. There's a fantastic guy who tracks all of this, by the way, Mario. His name is John Fleetwood, Jon Fleetwood. His Substack is tracking all of this gain of function happening in every single country. And so the US is doing the bird flu gain of function and has been for some time. And Trump and RFK injected a huge amount, I think it was $500 million into this gain of function stuff for bird flu. And so there's a huge amount of funding and, all of this going into that. And this new universal vaccine that RFK Jr. is talking about happens to have 4 different strains of bird flu in it. So are they preparing for something like that on a massive scale? I don't think they'll get away with it like they did last time. However, could these preparations be for the time when we're all linked to a digital currency and don't have a choice? Maybe. Maybe that's all preparation for that. Is it, once all of the government health systems are connected, oh, sorry, you can't get your health insurance because you didn't get your latest shot? Yeah, that's very likely. But I don't think that there'll be another COVID type event anytime soon, unless they frame it as some sort of a biological attack as a reason to go for war, which is possible because they want war. They want war.
Yeah. Yeah, we will come to that, but every time when people are thinking about global panics, pandemics, hysteria, war against the population, its own population, since 2020, 2 countries are coming to mind of every person, and these are Australia and Canada. So you were born in Australia, am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And when COVID panic started, like Australia and Canada basically had the toughest rules, yeah?
Yeah. Well, Melbourne in Victoria in Australia was the longest lockdown city outside of China in the world. It was over 250 days in lockdown. So, and some of the restrictions, born in Australia, lived in Serbia for a little while when I was little, and then moved back to Australia, by the way. I lived in an area in Western Sydney, which is a very high immigrant population. So they came down really hard on those people and even openly said, well, these people that come from other countries where, they're used to standing up to their government, they're not complying. So we're going to go really, really hard on them. They put military on our streets. The military were walking the streets to encourage vaccination. They threatened that they were going to send them door to door. They were putting people into camps against their will. They were taking people who were not sick to camps. The military came and took people to camps in the middle of the night, Aboriginal people in the community of Bunjari. So they took them, they put them in the camps, and then you had, the fake representatives of these Aboriginal communities saying, no, they were very happy to go to the camps. Now, if you know anything about Aboriginal people, I can tell you a bunch of white men in an army suit coming to take them to a camp, they're not happy about that. Right? They're not happy about that. They don't trust the white man. They don't trust the system. Right? So these 2 men actually escaped from the camp. Well, they're not going to try and escape if they're very happy to go. Then they aired it on national television. There was a nationwide manhunt for these 2 young men that escaped this camp. It was absolutely unbelievable, Mario. Just down the road from where I lived, there was a guy walking across the street. He was walking to a gas station. He didn't have a mask. He was going to buy one. He comes out of the gas station. The police boot bash him, kick his ribs. I think even from memory, they broke his ribs, kicking him on the ground because he walked to the station without a mask. He was walking to buy one. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it was unbelievable. Even where I live, they said to us, you can't go further than 5 kilometers for food. If the food is further than 5 kilometers, you have to order it online. And of course, because so many people were ordering online, you can't get it. There's so many items that you can't get. And so they were really, it was the most extreme form of conditioning. And one last thing I'll say about that is that city of Melbourne, which was the longest lockdown city in the whole world apart from China, in the West, came out of that the Melbourne experiment, which came out of the Monash University in conjunction with the United Nations. I have a whole report on this. I encourage people to watch it because they said in that report, this was so great for the climate. We have to do this forever all around the world. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
came
yeah,
out of that report.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so this is the model that they're now using, they're going to use in every single country to implement their smart city climate nonsense. Sorry, I'll pause here.
No, 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 no. Because yeah, the question was when I mentioned Canada or Australia, do you think that these two countries are projects? Because everything
Yes.
that is happening in the West comes from Australia and Canada. Every new agenda first is implemented in those countries.
Yes, and you see a lot of similarities between these agendas being rolled out across the Five Eyes nations, but it is much more aggressive in Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, probably because of the nature of those people. I can speak specifically to Australia. They've created a real welfare state. They make people dependent on the government. The cost of living's far too high, so people become increasingly more and more dependent on the government. And this has been happening. It's essentially bringing people to socialism over the years, really been conditioning them to that. And of course, you have the youth who are brainwashed by these public institutions. And so they think that socialism is the answer. So they actually advocate for socialist leaders. Because the only solution, I'm never going to be able to afford a house. I'm never going to be able to do any of the things that I want to do. I need to depend on government handouts. And it's happening. This is happening. We see it as well in the United States, in New York. Zoran Mamdani, who's like openly a socialist, they're supporting him. The youth are supporting him because they're like, we don't see another way out. It's a really serious problem, Mario. But back to your question, yes, they test case on the more compliant areas. Australians are a very not all Australians, but as a whole, very compliant people, very trusting in the government. I don't think there's really that independent community spirit where you as a community fight back. There isn't much of that in Australia. There really isn't. And they've been eroding it over time. People were dobbing in their neighbours left, right, and centre during the COVID era. They couldn't wait to dob in their neighbour. Not everyone again, but that's a bigger problem with the culture than it is in other places for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was crazy, especially when you know that you cannot go like move away from it anytime you want because it's an island, and it's
Yeah.
yeah. For me, like it will be really crazy, but Canada right now is moving towards. Canada is first when it comes to these agendas. You know how many families from Serbia and Croatia and Balkans came back from Canada to their home countries because they couldn't stand Trudeau and those laws and agendas that they have had there.
Yeah.
So right now they have climate lockdowns. We wrote here in Serbia about it, but people just cannot get into their head. Like, how can somebody say to me like you're not allowed to go to the forest or to the mountain? It's crazy.
Well, this is what came out of the Melbourne experiment, Mario. I actually, when I was doing that research, this is going back September of 2022, I was doing that research where I was uncovering all of these documents and I found a map for Sydney where I used to live, which actually had borders where people would be allowed to go and it ended at the mountains because they don't want people in nature. They don't want you to be able to hide and be independent because and this is something people need to understand, and I'm presuming a large portion of your audience is Orthodox, so they'll understand. It's all about getting us to the point of the mark of the beast. And we're getting closer every day with that. They're preparing the world for the Antichrist. And all of these progressive steps in this technology is to get us to the point where you cannot buy or sell until you get his mark. That is what all of this is about. It's what AI is about. It's what smart cities are about. Because if you're able to go into the mountains and build a hut, which no one is stopping you from right now, unless you're in Canada, if you're able to figure out a way to live off the land like people used to all the time, well, you can't be controlled. If you know how to hunt, if you know how to build a small structure, if you know how to survive without their fake money system, how are they going to control you? You're not allowed to be uncontrollable. That's their view. And so that's what the whole smart city agenda is about. And they have multiple different ways that they're going to attack this, because I'm sure there are people watching this who are saying, I will never move into one of those smart cities. I hear you. But what happens when they zone your area for what they call managed retreat? What happens when insurance companies suddenly say, we cannot insure your home? And on top of that, they do that to a whole rural area, and then they just drop a directed energy weapon and sizzle your entire rural area because now you have to be moved closer to the city. And now, on top of that, well, this is now eminent domain. The government comes and says this land is no longer safe for humans to live on because it's about your safety. So you can go here or there and relocate you in different places. They've done it already. Go and look at what they did with the floods in Lithgow in Australia years ago. They've already been doing these things, or that, like what they did in Maui. They built them temporary housing, never rebuilt the area, and purposely keep you in an uncomfortable state until you leave. That is what they will do, and they will continue to do. And the goal, I mean, all of these things, they want them to happen by 2030. I don't think they'll do that across the entire world by 2030. I actually think World War III, according to the prophecies of the saints, is going to stop a lot of this, by the way. It's going to put a real problem for them. You know, it's going to pause a lot of their works. But by the same token, you know, they're on track for a lot of this. They are. And I really do think that after the war, much of this technology will be retained and they will eventually resume their plans. It's written.
Yeah, it's for me coming from a country where I had like two wars for 40 years. How long do I live? Like I lived through two wars, and right now I'm thinking like, man, if they stop the wars, they're going to continue the war from the other angle, like from like the COVID. You know, the COVID stopped just the day when Russia and Ukraine war started.
Yes.
Yeah. So right now, like we should all like think like please make the war in Ukraine go even longer. You know, it's crazy. You know, because if they stop, they're
There'll
going to
be a
get
new thing. I hear
yeah
what you're saying. I would love the killing to stop on in every part of the world. I
yeah
would love the utopia of world peace. But you're right in the sense that as soon as they're done with one aspect, they'll move to the next, and the next will be the Middle East. That is undoubtable. We all can see the signs. We all see that much of the world, much of that region, and the US is talking about going to war with Iran. Israel's talking about regime change, these sorts of things. So there is absolutely going to be escalation coming. I believe signs are pointing to that. And I am very concerned about what that's going to mean as far as Russia's involvement, China's involvement. And prophecy has a thing or two to say about that as well. So you mentioned before, Mario, if I can just go back to something that you said, because I think it's really important. You mentioned before about orthodoxy rising across the world. And I think that there is a very real reason for that. We see two phenomenons going on at the same time. We see people going to the Latin Mass at the Catholic Church, and we see people returning to Orthodoxy. And of course, I don't believe that Catholicism is the true church. I'm sorry if I offend anyone. I just don't believe that. I believe that the Orthodox Church, which is the first church that Jesus Christ established, is the church, and everyone outside of that is a Protestant, right? But including Catholics. Sorry, please learn history if you're watching. I love you. But anyway, so why? But the point is, why are they doing this? Why are they going to traditional Latin Mass or Orthodoxy? Well, it's because they are sick of everything that modernity has to offer them. What does this modern world have to offer you? Chopping off your genitals and being gay? Is that the offer of the world? Wow, sounds really great. No, people don't want this anymore. People want tradition. They realize that there is really evil, serious evil in this world, which I think I'm grateful that COVID exposed. And COVID brought a lot of positives as well, despite all the death and destruction and everything. And I'm heartbroken about that. I'm heartbroken about people who felt like they had to take these injections. I am. But the positives that come out of this are that it really showed people the world is seriously messed up, and the only hope that we have is Jesus Christ. And I would encourage people if you haven't looked into his original church, do that, because that church is going to be very important in the times to come, especially in the times of Antichrist, because that church is the one that the gates of hell cannot prevail against her. So I just wanted to say that.
When it comes to war, as a the conventional war, guns, rockets, everything around it, that's the main tool for the population. That's also the part of agenda. Yeah, am I right?
Well, can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to war, when it comes to wars, the conventional wars with guns, with tanks, with aircrafts, with bombs, that also is a part of the agenda because where do you get the most depopulation besides COVID? You get it in wars. Yeah,
100%. And you also collapse economies with wars, which has to continue to happen systematically so that they can set up digital currency worldwide. That's because the reality is people are just not going to buy in any other way unless this current system crashes. But it can't crash in an instant without utter destruction around you. Otherwise, people are going to revolt. So there has to be a time of war in order for it to crash so that people are distracted with the absolute destruction of war. This is just how I would war game this if I was these maniacs. You know, I'm not going to risk a revolution.
I know that. I know that. I couldn't call myself a Serb if I didn't like if I was not up for the war. It's yeah, like give me war, man. Like give me. It's boring. Like let's go to war. But when it comes to war, for example, like this situation that we have for 3 years in Ukraine, it's not only about the war and the land. We learned also from it that corruption is so huge and so big that it's stronger than peace. Because we have from Turkish newspapers just did a research and they found out that Ukrainian government Zelensky, the guy who is like always touching his nose like he's eating cocaine for lunch. Yeah, his
Yes.
closest people in the government, they every month for 3 years they took $50 million and put it in the bank accounts around the Middle East, in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and now I don't know how the people from West feel when they see some guy who is like well known for playing like piano with his penis and he's spending their money. Like, how do people feel right now? Because I hope the war is going to end in Ukraine. Maybe we are closer to it than ever, but that money nobody's going to give back to American people, for example.
What I will tell you, Mario, because I obviously have family in Serbia, that's my background, and I've lived in Australia and currently live in the US. And I can tell you the difference between when I pick up the phone and I call my relatives in Serbia, the ones who are switched on, but even the ones who aren't, they understand more about what's going on in the world than people in the West do. And I'm not trying to insult Westerners at all. I love them. I live here. But the West is so heavily propagandized, and they're not very good at looking between the lines where propaganda is concerned. My experience with Serbian people, I grew up, my parents left Serbia, just before the war, and they taught me about what communism is. They taught my father grew up with, with communists around him, so it's like they taught me about these things. They taught me to never trust the government from, birth. It's like the first thing your Serbian mum tells you when you're born, so it's
Yeah.
like, I had a very different upbringing to the Westerners around me. And so it's like the training of the minds of Europeans is very different to the training of the minds of people in the West. They're Americans, for example, very trusting people, and it's such a beautiful trait about them. They're so trusting, they're so generous, but the government abuses that trait. The government abuses their naivety. Australia, very compliant people, the government abuses their compliance. Whatever positives you might have, the government's always going to try and exploit your weaknesses, and people need to snap out of it. So I say all of this to tell you, Mario, that because the West is so heavily propagandized, they take longer to realize, and sometimes maybe they don't even realize the truth about some of these things, like the situation with Russia and Ukraine. They don't hear about the stories that Zelensky's using the donations of their taxes to buy villas for his family members. They don't hear about this stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if you're how much you're tracking it now, but the American media has again started to, I mean, even Trump painting Putin as some sort of a madman and, all of this sort of stuff. So, whichever news we're getting as to the outcomes of things and outcomes of meetings and all of this sort of stuff, I would just encourage people to always read between the lines and dig a little bit deeper, because things are never as they seem or as are presented to us. And it's very important for leaders to maintain an air of calm because, like I said before, they don't want a revolution. And I'm certainly not encouraging that. I'm just saying, as a leader who's leading people through a time where it's so obvious that you are contributing to the collapse of the world, you don't want a revolution. You want to keep them calm. And that's what's happening in every country. They destroy a huge portion of civilization, but then they give you this much and the people go, oh, well, at least we're getting this. And it's been the story as old as man.
So, but when we talk about types of the people, you just said it. In Australia, people are like that. So the government is using that. Uh, and I'm getting close to the line to say that there is a lot of people in America, in United States, who are really close. Like mentality is closer to Serbia. They are ready to fight for the freedom. There is a portion of people, a good portion of people like that in the United States. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry. I hope I didn't make it sound like there wasn't. There
No, 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 you
is.
didn't. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
There is. The difference between these people is that they are incredibly patriotic. We all have guns here, and lots of them. And the government knows it. And that gives you, I can say, as someone who comes from Australia, where you weren't allowed to do that without a license, and even then, they got all these red flag laws, and it's very, very controlled, and licenses and whatever. It gives you a certain air of independence that, not that I ever plan or want to use it, but I have one, and I'm certainly, familiar with the Constitution as are all Americans, right? So, or most Americans. So you have, particularly in like states like Texas or New Mexico, people that just go, yeah, you are not messing with our Constitution, and by the way, we know why we have it. And we're not gonna make all our kids gay, and we're not gonna submit to this surveillance state. And we see what you're doing, and by the way, we don't want a war with Iran, for example, right? There is absolutely that portion of people in America. But in saying all of that, they are very good-hearted people. What I've come across, especially in the South, very good-hearted people who tend to believe others. And I'm saying the government does exploit that a lot. And it's to be expected. This is what world leaders do. It's they always find the weaknesses of the people and they exploit them.
Who do you think is the fastest country, or which is the fastest country for you right now, at this moment, that is implementing all agendas and making the society as George Orwell wrote in 1984? Like, which country is the fastest in implementing all agendas?
I certainly am not tracking every single thing happening in every single country. So
Yeah, the biggest country,
I,
like we have China, Russia, United States, UK, Australia, those
yeah,
countries. Yeah.
the UK and Australia are very, very similar with their Online Services Act, or the social media under 16 age bill. So by December in Australia, people will have to link their ID to even use Google, right? So yeah, it's really serious. And the UK is about to do the same, and I think Denmark's exploring this. There were a few other European countries. I can't remember them off the top of my head now, Mario. I'll have a look. The point is that they're all really, so it's Italy, Greece, Denmark, France, and Spain are developing the same age verification similar to the UK and Australia. So there are, and this is, of course, I mean, anyone that's in the EU is at risk of this because Ursula von der Leyen is part of that AI world society, and she's pushing this, massively. In terms of the progress that they're making, there's a lot of pushback in Australia. There's a lot of pushback in the UK. The same sort of things are happening in the US, though. They're pushing similar laws, but there isn't as much pushback because people think, well, President Trump's on our side. And this is kind of the problem that I think America has probably the most capability to accelerate this faster than all of these other countries. And the problem is that a lot of people don't realize it's happening. I think that's more dangerous than people that see it happening and are trying to do something about it, if you know what I mean.
I mean, do you think that we are going to see the day when guys like Fauci and the guys from EcoHealth Alliance and all the other from the United States, also Bill Gates or the others who are responsible for a lot of deaths that's happened during COVID and after COVID, right, happening right now. Will we see them behind bars?
No. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, but we should make their life miserable then. Like,
let me rephrase that, Mario. Not unless we get actual real leaders that are not beholden to the powers that be in any way, shape, or form. Like if people have any delusions that that there's going to be accountability for Anthony Fauci, well, let me tell you again that RFK Jr.'s new universal vaccine that the NIH is developing is one of the lead scientists of that wrote a paper with Anthony Fauci, and the funding came from Bill Gates. So no, there's not going to be accountability under this administration for Fauci and Bill Gates. It's just not going to happen. They're still working with them, or they still have ties to them, which puts all of Operation Warp Speed into question as well, by the way, whether it was a naivety or whether it was, anyway, I won't get into that. But unless there is truly an independent person that is able to rise up to smash through the uniparty, because it is, to smash through, and it's a uniparty everywhere, by the way, but unless there is a truly independent person, I don't know how things will change. I'm hopeful for that. I hope I don't come across as this whole situation's hopeless and we're all going to just give up and die. Might as well just die. No. Sloboda ili smrt, okay? But I'm just trying to give people a reality check to bring us back to the point where it's like, okay, we still need to be fighting here because this is nowhere near over. That's what I'm trying to do. It's what I've always tried to do, Mario. I hope I don't come across negative, but I'm just being real with people.
No, for sure. Like we cannot surrender. Like we cannot sit in and wait for the world to become as they planned. Like I cannot sit at home and wait for them to come and give me wax me in my eye or something like. For me, when it was COVID, there like we sit here in home, family, and I said as a man here, like the house. The guys, if they come to our doors, I'm going to war.
Yes.
Like I'm going to woods. We're going together. We're going to be Haiduci again, and and we're going to fight new Ottomans, because
yes.
Yeah, because we explained that to the people, like that that type of propaganda, that type of violence that the government did to us here and everywhere else, it was like the Ottomans, like 500 years ago. So it was not hard for people to get it. But here also in Serbia, it was the word was on the street, like if you wear mask, you're a gay. So like men didn't wear masks, and women didn't wear it because they have makeup, so they tried it, but they didn't succeed as much Please, please tell me, please tell me. Yeah, I ask you a question. Which country or the group or the union is implementing all the agendas? And I left European Union on purpose because for me, European Union is far more worse than China. Uh,
Yeah, in many
yeah,
ways.
yeah, they're selling the story of democracy, but in reality, what do you think in reality the European Union is? Is the European Union then like the project? Okay, we know that it's a project. It's like a continuing Fourth Reich. When we really look at it from the example, in Germany, you cannot be a politician if your grandparents weren't in SS division. It's you cannot be in politics in Germany. But uh, when we see European Union from a perspective, you're not living in European Union. You- Thanks God. Like, and I'm not living in European Union. Serbia, like, we're not going to European Union. There's no way. We can see what they are doing to their own people. And when I combine it and look towards United States or Russia or Iran or China, I see that European Union is like the number one when it comes to implementing all those projects, implementing all those ideas from Yuval Harari or Klaus Schwab. Please don't forget Klaus Schwab. Like a few days ago, George Soros had 95th birthday. Like those guys, we cannot forget it. But what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear EU?
I literally just think of Ursula von der Leyen being part of writing that book about what the future was going to look like. UN 75, it's called An Unexpected Message from the Future. And they say that, and anyone can look this up. I really encourage you to. You think it sounds crazy until you actually see it on the United Nations website. And it says that um, Vinton G. Cerf, who they call the evangelist of the internet, which is a religious term, yeah, he's evangelizing the internet, making it evolve into something that's part of our bodies, right? That's what the Internet of Bodies agenda is. And he says, I was recently experimenting with some extremely high frequency receivers in the 125 gigahertz band when I detected an unexpected but strong and repeated signal. I recorded it, and after considerable effort using a sophisticated machine learning tools, meaning I was able to decode the signal. It appears to have come from the future by a means unknown. So this demon that he's talking to basically says, I won't read it word for word, I come to you from the year 2045. It was in 2020 that it was finally recognized that our only hope was to focus intensely and resolutely on the development of new technologies to cope with the crisis of global warming and its side effects. Okay, so this guy from the UN has this on their website. Guys, demons are sending us messages from the future, and we have to go really hard with climate change to make it to the year 2045. That's a big year for them because it marks the 100th year anniversary of the United Nations. And Ursula von der Leyen is word for like step by step implementing this plan to get us to what they call the AI world society, where AI is literally inside your body. It's called biodigital convergence. That's that aspect of the agenda where they are embedding sensors inside your body. AI is monitoring. You can look at the biodigital convergence policy horizons Canada document. It's an official government of Canada document, and it gives you like a futuristic scenario. It says I wake up in the morning and my AI through my body sensors tells me what minerals I'm missing. So then it 3D prints them from my counter, and it's like crazy stuff. This is the world that they're trying to create, except even that fake utopia that they're presenting is still it's going to be much worse than that. So my point is, Ursula, yes, she's just one person, but she's someone that is following this step by step by step to get to this dystopia. So absolutely, the EU is a problem, but every country is a problem, Mario. Then none of them are doing the right thing. I think I just have to be honest. I don't think anyone's doing the right thing by their people. They're doing the right thing by, let's say, furthering technology, But how is that exactly going to help people prosper? More people are unemployed now, more young people are unemployed now than ever in history in the United States. Why? Well, AI, replacement, offshore companies, call centers in India, name it, name it. Manufacturing doesn't really happen in here anymore. I don't know that the tariffs are helping manufacturing start happening here. I don't think it's changing a thing. Okay, maybe it takes some time, but the reality is the future for young people is very, very grim, and the job losses are exploding here as well because of two things, right? Cutting federal employees and AI displacement of employees. And that's going to keep coming. AI displacement of people is going to keep coming. So people really need to prepare for this, whether it means to upskill, whether it means to, understand ways in which you can get around these systems to help you and your family still maintain your ability to earn, thrive, strive. If you can learn some AI systems, work within the beast system to achieve a better goal. If you're a podcaster, if you have a service business where a robot will never be able to do it, for example, I don't know, roof cleaning or whatever the case may be, we just have to be very prepared for this future that they are going to thrust upon us. They already are. And so I can't say who's the worst. They're all bad.
When it comes to AI, when you said like learn something to do something with your bare hands that AI cannot do, because right now we can see that the first people who are going to lose their jobs are those who created AI, basically, who were
Yeah.
who were in those projects, like the programmers, the IT sector, like those are the people who are going to lose their jobs. But those people who have some kind of tool in their fingers, in their hands, they're going to continue living. And when you said like AI in the body, inside of the body of the people, they can
Yeah.
only get rakia inside my body system. Only rakia inside the system, and that's the ultimate AI, man. When you drink it, like you don't need to go to Mars with Elon Musk. You have Mars here, man. Like it's
No one's going to Mars ever. Okay, let me just tell you, we never went to the moon. We're never going to Mars. Okay, come and argue with me in the comments. No problem. We never went to the moon. We're never going to Mars.
yeah, we have so much topics to talk about. I really follow you for a long time, and also Vigilant Fox, and reading it, and we also use the things that you are talking about, so we can convert it inside of text and give it to the people here around Balkans and Central Europe. So really, Maria, I'm hoping that we're going to talk again soon. We have a lot of topics that we didn't cover. We didn't dig deep like in one, but we just had like really good talk from my perspective. I hope that you feel the same. I still didn't start drinking rakia after this podcast. I'm going into rakia, so like I know I was cool. I know I was cool.
I absolutely would love to come back on, and we can certainly dig into more, more deeper into specific topics. This is what I do, not just as part of my work, but really it's my hobby. I care. I really care, and I feel very honored to be able to do what I love as my job as well. That's going to become more and more rare these days for people to be doing something that they love. So I thank God for that, and I thank God for all of the people that are really fighting this agenda across the world. Even if I say this all the time, and I always have hope that we'll turn things around, but even if there was no possibility that things would improve, we would still be doing the right thing by standing up to tyranny. And that's something that we have to, really all hold our heads up high about. So I'm grateful to you, Mario. Thank you for your time. Thank you to your viewers. If you're interested in following my work, you can do so on X at ZEE_media, Telegram Zeee Media, all one word. And of course, you can also subscribe to our Rumble, Zeee Media, all one word. Thank you so much, Mario.
Thank you again, Maria, and also people follow Maria Zeee and follow Vigilant Fox, and also on Telegram. I'm going to put down the links in the first comment. So like just click on follow and hear the truth. Maria, thank you again. Have a nice night. Bye.
Thank you.